Hey everybody, Tom Winterstein, the ChartPros here. And what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to take you through part of my weekly routine for higher time frame Forex grid that I keep in my chart library and also post to our ChartPros subscribers in our private Slack channel. And so what I do is I start with last week's chart and I'll go through an update. And I've got 9 different charts here in this grid. And so I'm just going to start in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to maximize this. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to take a look and really just kind of think out loud of anything that I see that's notable or things that are no longer valid on the chart or changes that I want to make. So what we see here is, I'll make sure that this is snapped correctly from previous weeks. And we got a nice retracement right here to the 61.8% retracement, broke above support and resistance here. And we see that it's breached this impulse fib on the 50. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off for here. And it gives us some more upside targets. And because I turned that 50 off, I'm going to go ahead and turn the 78.6 on. And what I like to do on my bear fibs is I like to make the 78 a red color, just so I kind of know. So anyways, if someone has gotten long here off of a previous chart, this is a daily view. Targets could be back up to the upside around here, the 61.8, the support and resistance, or the 78.6. Now we also have some higher time frame bear retracements that we can see by scrolling out just a little bit. And so to the downside, we have a higher time frame 50% retracement. That's on a weekly basis. So if price wanted to, it could come down and tag that. But for right now, the chart has been bullish for the past several days. And it will remain bullish until it's not. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this little trend line over here. I'll activate this and just kind of move it, because price is going to have to, if it does want to come down and visit this 50, price is going to have to, breach this bull retracement as well as this trend, as well as this support and resistance to come down and tag here. And although that may seem like a lot of distance and a lot of movement, anytime that a news event comes out or something happens in the world, especially we're looking at the dollar yen in this case, it could get there in a matter of minutes or hours. So price can move rather quickly. Anything that's in color, as far as fibs, that's more of a primary level that I'm looking for. Is like, hey, next up would be this level one. So if you're long, it also could be a potential short. And I'm not advocating that you get long or short. The decision's really up to you. What we're doing is providing bi-directional levels of interest. And I'm neither a bull nor a bear. I'm a trader. And I recently heard that, bulls are losers and bears can be losers in the same day, but the ones who really win are the traders. And so here's the higher time frame on this. I'm okay with this. I'm not going to give any other retracements. We may get a retest of the support resistance before price wants to make its way up here. So that's what I see on the dollar yen. I'm going to keep this as it is and move on to the next chart. The next chart is the Aussie dollar. And I'll scroll out a little bit on this, and we see that this is a weekly chart, and price has been working through some support and resistances before it had a retracement here. And I'm going to turn on some of the bear retracements and we'll kind of give us an idea, where it is as far as working its way back up this structure. And we see that it's breached the 50. So we'll turn that off. It actually closed above the 61, but respected that support and resistance. So I'm going to turn that off. So the next bullish target from a Fibonacci standpoint, again, this is a weekly higher level. On a weekly basis, the 78 up here there in red could be a retracement level. It does have some support and resistance levels to get through as far as this goes. So again, from a higher time frame, more of a swing trade perspective, we got a retracement on this impulse fib in the 50, and it held during the week. If you're trading this intraday or you're looking at it on a 15-minute chart or heck, even a 4-hour chart, it's going to look totally different. but this is a higher time frame picture that I use in my spot Forex swing trading account, as well as our ChartPros traders. And so for right now, I'm just going to kind of leave this where it is. I don't really see any other significant changes. I could add in this particular bear retracement, although I'm not going to put a whole lot of importance on it. So I'm going to change that color, to a lighter, just all gray. Those retracements could potentially work, to, enter in a short. And again, this analysis is not to tell you when to buy or when to sell. It's to give you information so that you can make your own decisions that fit into your style. So looking and moving on to the next chart here, we're looking at the euro dollar. And we have had some significant movement in the last week where it has breached some of the bull retracements, the primary bull retracements that we had in color. I'm actually going to turn this one off because it looks like that it respected this particular 50, very nicely. So we'll go ahead and make this our primary fib, for right now. Add these colors, and this is, what I use in as far as a color structure that works for me. You can make these, any color that you want. And so, as far as if anyone had gotten along last week, that would have been a good entry as far as that goes. And where might it want to go if it goes back to the upside? Well, we just simply put in a corresponding bear retracement. And I'm going to turn off the 78 for right now. And so if you're long, this is where you might want to be targeting. But know that there's some wicks over here, and price, could very rapidly descend over to here. From a higher time frame level, one that seems to have the most confluence, where I would be most interested in based on this chart, would be somewhere down around here, the 1.0381 area, where there is a higher time frame, longer impulse, 50% retracement, support and resistance, and we've got a trend line coming off of here. But price never goes anywhere in a straight line. We do know that markets continuously cycle. So you could trade this, on that particular basis. Again, not necessarily being a bull or a bear, but being a trader as you work through this chart. Moving on to our next chart, this is the dollar CAD. The dollar CAD, most people don't realize, almost moves inversely to the price of oil, because the price of oil is significantly tied to the dollar CAD pair. And so what we can see from last week is price came down off of this fib that we had, and we'll make sure everything is snapped, the way it needs to be. We need to pull this one back up to the top. We'll turn off this 50, and we'll see what price has done. If you look off to the left, price, there's a lot of sideways consolidation movement, in this area as well as over here. Before that, though, price kind of shot straight up, shot straight back down. So there's something in this area that now has kind of slowed things down. When it decides to break away, and who knows which way, if it'll break to the upside or downside, it'll probably break away with some strong momentum, just as it moved through here to it, and then it moved from here away from it, with some momentum. This is a daily chart. Sometimes the higher time frame charts that I post are weekly or dailies. And I post these each Monday morning for myself and for the members. So we see that we got a nice retracement here. Price could move back to the upside. My market sentiment on this is a little bit more bullish than it is bearish. Although I am a trader, I don't call myself a bull or a bear. I can add this in just to give me an idea. And we see that we have, kind of a decision that's going to be made sometime in the upcoming days or weeks, where price is likely to either break away from and above this trend line, might want to test this trend line and come back down. And we have a less significant trend line. In my opinion here, it's less significant because, I've got it in gray, and I don't see it as significant as this particular one, where it's had a couple of tests. This one tested, broke below, came above, came back down, and retested again. So this week will kind of be interesting to see what happens, for the dollar CAD. And moving on, take a look at the Aussie yen, and we see that we've got a strong retracement already. This is from last week's fib level, and it's right now sitting at a decision at the pretty much 92.00 level. We can turn off this 61 as it's already breached, although it hasn't closed above there. It's kind of breached, but it's gone to this 78.6. We could add some more. We see a retracement. It's got a retracement there, and we've got a wick. So, something in this area, this is a change control zone where price can rapidly move through it, can respect the tops, can respect the bottoms. At some point, though, it's likely to move very aggressively away from here. And so a change control zone, by definition, can be a time of consolidation. Price can move rapidly through it. It can totally disregard it. We see the last time that it came into here, it's moved away from this change control zone with some authority. With some upside targets that haven't quite been reached would be this 50% retracement, but an area, at least from a short perspective, that has some interest to me would be more up here where there's, more points of confluence where I've got that 61.8% retracement. I have some, profit target completions for the bull fibs that end up around here. I've got this trend so around this 50, it may want to consolidate, it may want to respect. We've got a little zone right here of interest that it may respect for a little while. This would be we use supply and demand zones. I'm not going to put this on this chart. That's a pretty wide area as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not necessarily looking to get short anywhere in here. If we got a retracement back down in here, that would be a level of interest to get long on this particular chart. So moving on to the pound dollar, and we see that we've had essentially several days of sideways movement. Hasn't quite reached this higher time frame 61.8% retracement. We see that it has respected somewhat this trend line, and what I'm anticipating this price action could do in this chart is come up here and tag this 61.8 and then maybe drop down into this area. Conversely, since it's just kind of meandering around this trend line for now, it may want to dart down and fill some of these levels. So again, not being a bear or a bull, a level of interest for me to the short side would be up around the 61.8 higher time frame retracement. A level of interest to get long would be somewhere down in this area, knowing that higher time frame price could just ultimately plummet and come down and visit these levels, and it would still be technically correct, as far as Fibonacci and price action tools go. On to our next chart is the dollar Swiss franc, and we see prices. This is a change control zone where price has been kind of moving through it and around it over the past several days. There is a bull retracement down here at 78.6 that it wouldn't surprise me to see if price wants to keep working its way down into here. As far as maybe identifying a level where it could potentially turn would be somewhere down around in here. This trend line, which is longer term on a weekly or even a monthly, is going to look like it just kind of wicked through it. Although on this daily, it certainly didn't respect it here, but it came back up, meandered around it for a better part of a day, came back down, touched this support and resistance, and just absolutely launched off of there. So this retracement in gray of having lesser importance hasn't held, so we can go ahead and add the 78.6, take off the 61, and give us some upside targets. So really anything of interest to me to get short in this chart is going to be somewhere up in this area. And to get long, I'd really like to see if price can come down here and tag this 78. And again, price never moves in a straight direction. It's going to cycle its way up or cycle its way down. And these will be some levels of interest for me. A question that comes to mind, well, what about an intraday type approach to this? Well, we also have that, and I update my chart library on shorter term trades. that go down to the 4 hour and 1 hour, but that's not the purpose of this particular grid. So I'm just going to let, the dollar Swiss franc just kind of decide what it wants to do around here. Nothing's going to surprise me if it wants to shoot up here or if it wants to fall back down in here. And I know from a higher time frame, this is loosely held, on a weekly, monthly, but on the daily, we see it hasn't been as respected. So what I'll do for myself personally is I will change the color of that on my daily chart to give it less significance, but know that price could potentially get attracted back down here, and we see the support and resistance that it would have to go through to get to it. Our next to last chart is the euro yen, and we see this is also a daily chart. And what I had identified over the past couple of weeks is basically kind of a wedge. The price is kind of working towards, and wedges just because it gives us an opportunity where price is going to make a decision. We see the upper wedge is held 3 times now. The lower part of the trend has held twice, and we can identify levels within the wedge if we want to trade them by using Fibonacci. We see that this bull retracement has held. I'm going to add another retracement from the top as it still kind of decides where it wants to go. And we see the 50% has been filled. We see the 61% is working above there, at least for this particular. And I'm not going to give this a whole lot of importance. Like, I'm not looking to get short here, but I'm going to give that just a level to target. And just from a personal perspective, one of the reasons I'm turning on this level is I got long here last week. So I'm sitting long, in this particular area. And what I did is I started to, scale out of this particular trade at these retracements. I took partial profits at the 50% and support and resistance. I took some more off at the 61.8% retracement. And so right now I'm holding runners. My entry is down here and I've moved my stop into profit. And so essentially what I've done is created a risk-free trade. I'm just going to let there and let it ride and kind of see, where price may want to go. It may want to hold that upper boundary and come back down, or it may just want to shoot up there with some targets up in this area as well. And the last chart I have on this grid is the euro pound, and which seems to move very rapidly, both on a higher time frame and lower time frame. It can just absolutely go on, I call it tears and runs. This lesser important fib has already been breached, so I'm going to make this more of a truer impulse, not a validated fib. And we see it's kind of working in this area. It may decide it wants to work its way back up through here, where I can add on another fib. And I'll change this one to red so I know it would be a bear fib. And in fact, what I'm going to do is not a level real wild to get short around. So I'm going to change the significance of all those levels to be less important in my style to the gray. And we see that this fib came down. It didn't tag the 50, but it's come up here. So it kind of indicates to me that maybe that's not the best anchor, or that price hasn't finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a true, in this case, longer impulse fib to give me some levels back down around here. And this would be a change control zone. So, the fibs aren't lining up precisely for me other than this retracement. So I like this anchor for sure. And we'll see. It's not going to surprise me to see price kind of run back down into this area. And we have this longer term trend that price could get attracted to as well. Back up to the upside, we got a fill on that 78. There are some other targets to the upside on the daily basis. And here's a 78 where price could get pulled back up into there. So, but with all this consolidation around here, lots of times what I see on price action is price will come back to a consolidation area and can break away to the upside or break away to the downside. And so that takes my analysis through all 9 charts. I will now save this to my chart library and I will share it to our chart subscribers. If you have an interest in taking a look at our chart subscription, where we post these 9 charts every day, as well as an indices feature grid of 6 charts, you can visit us at stockchartpros.com and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial account.